Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Well folks, the Democrats have a serious problem on their hands here. Being left-wing isn't enough, being a moderate is no longer enough. The standard when it comes to being accepted in the popular mainstream left-wing world is to be as extreme as possible. We've been talking about this for a while, that this woke mind virus, this woke virus that has infected the Democrat body politic, well, it has become such an authoritarian cult. It's become so extreme, so fractured, that it seems to be eating itself alive. You know, a lot of people make this point that you don't really have to go after Democrats so much because Democrats do the job for you. You know, different types on the left-wing spectrum, they all have one thing in common. They hate Republicans, but they also have another thing in common, that they hate each other. Joe Biden proved this during the election campaign, where he pandered and sided with far-left socialist liberals, and then the moment he won, he threw them all under a bus and even attacked Bernie Sanders, distancing himself from socialism and claiming that he beat the socialists. They hate each other, and it's especially true when talking about the socialist Twitter wing of the Democrat Party and their view on moderates. Cancel culture comes from the far-left Twitter group, and for the most part it targets celebrities or conservatives, but it has become so toxic and so impossible to ever be woke enough for their standards that they're also going after their own. They're canceling their own people for not being woke enough, for not being far left enough, and not pushing party propaganda while ignoring the truth. And here we go, we got another cancel culture campaign that has ended successfully for these far left loons on the Twitter platform. They've been calling for months to cancel Chuck Todd, to get Chuck Todd fired from his NBC or MSNBC show, whatever you want to call it, same network. And a couple months later, Chuck Todd loses his network show and is demoted and pushed down to an irrelevant online segment on their streaming platform. Chuck Todd essentially just got fired. And you might be asking yourself, for what? For telling the truth, for warning Democrats of their inevitable collapse in the 2022 election, instead of enabling left-wing copium and telling them what they want to hear. Chuck Todd just got fired from MSNBC for telling the truth and not being an extreme leftist, pushing American socialist. Let me update you guys on this, and then let's talk about the extremism, this woke virus that's infecting networks like MSNBC and of course the Democrat Party. But before we get into any of it, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers. And with that out of the way, let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so take a look at this. Chuck Todd's daily show demoted from MSNBC to a streaming service. The mainstream media is failing. Chuck Todd's Meet the Press daily is being taken off of MSNBC and will now be only on NBC News. Chuck Todd's Meet the Press daily is being taken off of MSNBC and will now only be on the NBC News Now network, which is the network streaming service. Starting on June 6th, his daily show will stream as Meet the Press Now, marking the latest effort to expand the offerings on the free platform. Todd's Meet the Press daily, also known as MPT Daily, had aired at 1 p.m. Eastern Time each day and will move to 4 p.m. Eastern on NBC News Now. Chris Jansing will take over the 1 p.m. hour starting on May 26 with MSNBC reports. The show's ratings have been trailing competitors. It averaged only 681,000 viewers in April. This was far behind Fox News and even lower than CNN. President Donald Trump previously called Chuck Todd to be fired after he was caught deceptively editing a clip of Attorney General William Barr. And now, of course, we can make the focus of this video on what the Gateway Pundit is reporting here, that the mainstream media is failing, but I don't want to rehash that. We already know that to be the case, especially the left-wing media. What I want to focus on more specifically is how people like Chuck Todd, who of course I'm not a fan of, I think he's a left-wing hack, I think he's essentially the MSNBC version of Chris Wallace. What I'm trying to say here is that Chuck Todd is not nearly as bad as people like Joyanne Reid or Tiffany Cross or Rachel Maddow. He's more of a moderate, and we've covered a lot of his segments over the last couple of months that have actually been quality, and he's been right. He's been one of the few figures on MSNBC and CNN willing to actually tell the truth when it comes to Democrat policies and Democrat failures. And that right there is why he's gone. Because people who watch MSNBC don't want the truth. People who watch MSNBC want to be coddled. They want their egos fluffed up. They want to be told that they're right about absolutely everything and that Republicans are evil, fascist, racists. And so the only shows that are successful on MSNBC and a network like that are the ones who go extreme, and I mean extreme to the left. Extreme partisan, the clip that I showed you guys yesterday of an MSNBC contributor, I believe on Tiffany Cross's show, calling for the DOJ to indict Ted Cruz and others for their role in orchestrating the January 6th riot, claiming the text messages that were shown at the January 6th committee prove their guilt, even though, as we've covered, those text messages literally exonerate all of them. But that's another issue entirely. The point is, the network has become extreme, with that individual also asking the DOJ to help the Democrats win in the midterms. Absolute craziness. It's nothing but craziness that airs on MSNBC 24/7, and there's a reason for that, because that is what is in demand from MSNBC viewers: extremism and extreme partisanship. And people like Chuck Todd don't have a future anymore in the mainstream media because of that slow march towards extremist views, particularly on the left wing. And speaking of extremism and MSNBC, or just left-wing talking heads in general, I might as well find an example, and it's not exactly hard to find one. These examples are so prevalent, like always, I can always find one in about 5 seconds. MSNBC panel breaks down when guest says she wants to, quote, make sweet love to SCOTUS leaker and, quote, joyfully abort our fetus. Take a look at this.
MSNBC opinion columnist Zishan Alim wrote earlier this week about this, and this is how he characterized it. Nobody should be fooled. The reason right-wingers are suddenly fans of propriety again is because so much of their political agenda requires using the Supreme Court to advance policy far too unpopular for the democratic process. This is something we have talked about a lot on this show. I certainly have been talking about it, which is the combination of the undemocratically elected President Trump appointing three justices where the Republican majority that confirmed them represented far less of the population than the majority. And then on top of that, you have abortion that is actually something that 70% in this country of people want. So do you agree that this is going against the undemocratic will, but this is the only way Republicans can achieve this?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, here's the thing. Here's my feeling about the leaker. I would like to find out who the leaker is so I could make sweet love to that person, because that person is a hero to me. Okay? And if the leaker, a lot of people are saying it could be a conservative. If the leaker is a Republican, and if I get pregnant during our lovemaking, I will joyfully abort our fetus and let them know.
Now that is extreme, that is crazy, but that is also exactly what people want from MSNBC. Not only is the rhetoric despicable, vile, and extreme, but they also want the nonsensical, totally ignorant political analysis in the first place. They want their worldview reinforced rather than challenged. The analysis part, the part of democracy at the start, was totally inaccurate. First of all, the Supreme Court doesn't make policy, a claim that is so easily debunked. The Supreme Court merely overturned an unconstitutional decision and sent it back to the states, which is literal democracy. Democrats seem to believe that polling data of the whole country constitutes democracy. This 70% of the American populace supports abortion, which once again is a totally misleading claim. The data that we've seen is that close to 70% of the entire country, nationwide, supports the Roe v. Wade decision, which is fine. I mean, that's one thing, but it doesn't change the fact that the decision is unconstitutional. And when it comes to the actual medical procedure itself, voters are split as to when it should and should not be illegal or legal. And when you look at polling data, the longer the pregnancy, the more people start to drop off as to when it is ethical or when it is right or when it should be legal or not. They don't break down the nuance. They fearmonger with this idea of democracy, once again completely ignoring state sovereignty, because major population centers like New York and California and all the other Democrat states and cities obviously add to the majority of people who would support this type of legislation. Doesn't mean it's democratic to then impose these policies on every other state. And that was the entire point of the decision in the first place, to leave it to statehood democracies to decide what is right for them, their state, and their constituents when it comes to this issue. Fear-mongering about democracy in the most undemocratic and dishonest way possible. These people have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. They don't understand the way the system works and the nuance of these decisions. And they do nothing but fear-monger and push extreme rhetoric, kind of like Mrs. Pramila Jayapal, a card-carrying member of the far-left socialist wing, claiming that the US Supreme Court, quote, does not have the right to overturn Roe v. Wade, when they literally do, in fact, have that right. These people are confused, they are uninformed, and worst of all, a very deadly cocktail, they are extreme. And that's why people like Chuck Todd cannot exist within their ecosystem. He's just not extreme enough, and so he's gotta go. That is the reality of the new Democrat Party, the new left, and I don't know how sustainable that's gonna be. But of course, that's what I got for you guys. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share this video as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers. I'm gonna get back to work. I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.